welcome to the standards portion of our stability series. Now, before I get started, I'll give you guys a couple samples about standards in the real world. As I mentioned before, I fly a lot for work, and Southwest Airlines is one of those companies that I find very interesting because of their excellent use of standards. Southwest was founded by Roland King and Herb Kelleher in the early 1970s. Back then, they served 3 markets: San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. Their initial goal was to create flights that were cheaper than it would be to drive between these 3 cities. They only had 4 Boeing 737s, and only 3 were used on any given day. This was to reduce the risk of flight cancellations due to mechanical failures of one of the other 3 planes. Today, they still use only 737s for their standard plane, or in this case, standard part. As a customer, I see the true value add of flying in getting to my destination safely and comfortably. I could care less about what type of plane I'm flying in, so using all of one type of planes, 737s in this case, gives Southwest 4 distinct advantages. 1, it standardizes all training. All of their pilots only need to be trained on one type of plane. They only need to maintain standard training and standard operating procedures for 737s. This makes pilots and planes interchangeable, which can get them out of pinches due to pilot illness or rare mechanical failures. 2, it standardizes parts. Southwest can carry all critical spares they need for all planes in their fleet at all locations because they only use one type of plane. Other airlines can't do this because of all the different types of planes they use. I've been delayed many hours during a layover on another carrier. A spare part had to actually be flown in from another city that just happened to have it. 3, it helps them standardize routes. Southwest is still amazing at targeting routes that are both convenient and profitable. Southwest uses a point-to-point model rather than a hub-spoke model that most other airlines use. This means they target popular routes and fly customers directly back and forth instead of flying and batching customers from a regional airport to larger hub airports only to route them again to their final destination. Other airlines do this in an effort to maximize their eclectic, or what I consider ragtag fleet, and to maximize seats sold. In other words, their hub-spoke strategy is a masking agent for their inefficient fleet and routing network. As customers, we pay for this in the form of time waiting during long layovers instead of getting convenient direct flights. The 4th advantage of using one type of plane is it gives Southwest a great standard boarding sequence that works on all flights. They realize that customers don't value time on the ground, so they minimize this by having customers sequence themselves for quick boarding. Getting everyone to stand in a line and sequence of seating is far more efficient than the zone loading system that other carriers use. Southwest has set themselves up for success by embracing standards. Standards have been a key part of Southwest remaining profitable while other airlines have struggled. In fact, 2 years after starting in 1973, they have made a profit every year since. They are the only airline to do so. So on one of my recent trips, I rented a Toyota Yaris, and the first thing that I noticed was the dash being located in the center. It turns out this is a standard part to drive out cost of this budget automobile. As you know, drivers in countries like England and Japan have their steering column located on the opposite side of automobiles as we do in the US. This means Toyota would have to create 2 different dashes to accommodate. But because competition in the market for economy cars is so great, they chose to drive down costs just a little more by creating a single standard dash that could be shared by all models worldwide. As a final customer, I really don't care, and this allows Toyota to make a car a little cheaper for the rental car company. So Taiichi Ohno himself said, "Without standards, there can be no Kaizen." I'm going to break down standards into standard parts and standard work. Now, a lot of times, standard parts can actually meet custom demands, but unfortunately, our marketing force or our sales force may not even know that these standards exist, so we go off and create yet another custom part. I also want to address that environments without standardized work have too much freedom on the shop floor. Everybody's way is right, so there's no single best way of doing it. If you recall from our history lesson, Frederick Taylor decided to use a scientific method and applied that to management to find the one best way. That laid the groundwork for creating standardized work on the shop floor. So the Rubik's Cube is one of those things I really can't do. It's a relatively simple looking puzzle. There are 6 sides with 9 squares. Each of the 6 sides is a different color. But when you do the math, there's 519 quintillion possible configurations a Rubik's Cube can be adjusted to. I want you to think for a minute of all the different raw material SKUs your organization keeps. If you did the math, how many different combinations does that work out to in finished products? We can inadvertently add so much complexity to our organization when we do not establish tight controls on our raw materials. Next is a magical place that conjures up many fond memories of past dates: Subway. With 6 different types of breads, 40 types of meats, 8 types of veggies, 4 cheeses, and an assortment of spices, you can get over 161 million unique sandwiches. So with standard parts, they can basically configure to a custom demand. But what impresses me most about Subway is their standard work. Every single one of those 161 million sandwiches follows the exact same standard sequence. Standard work, or a lack of standard work actually, is where many organizations add complexity. Does your organization employ standard work, or is work performed differently every single time, even on repeat orders? Here's another example of standard parts in action. Every morning I shave using an electric Panasonic ES228 shaver on my face, back, and shoulders. Eventually, it was time for me to change out my old blades, and I noticed that the packaging on the list had 20 other Panasonic models that use the same exact blades. Again, as a final customer, it really doesn't matter to me that they're saving money by using the same blades on various models. All I care about is having a clean shaven look until 5 p.m. on my face and upper back. There would be no reason for Panasonic to make unique blades for each of their razors when a standard blade works just fine. In fact, I'm happy to see that they're standardizing parts and passing some of those savings along to me as a final customer. So it's very important that we create standard raw materials and control those tightly. We can't let more and more different types of raw materials crawl in over time. With every introduction of a new raw material, you create a new combination or a new permutation that happens along the line further. It just adds a lot of complexity to your production. Next, we need to create standard parts using these standard raw materials. If you recall, Eli Whitney and Henry Ford from our history discussion, they were big proponents of standardized parts, and they were able to decrease manufacturing costs drastically by applying that theory. Finally, we need to configure and customize those standardized parts into as many different configurations as we can, again, using as few standards from the beginning as possible. Standard work and standard parts create stability in the following three areas: quality, quantity, and timing. Standards, and particularly standard work, creates the foundation for lean. Now, a lot of you guys probably learned that 5S is the foundation for lean, but I'm here to tell you that's actually incorrect. Standard work provides the basis for which the pillars and the roof of the House of Lean stand. Taiichi Ohno was tasked with coming up with standard work while an employee at Toyota. Standard work is made up of three components. The first is takt time. This is the cadence or the drum beat at which items are produced. The second is standard sequence. This is the quality component to make sure items are assembled in the exact same sequence every single time. And the last is standard whip. This ensures that the cell or the production line runs smoothly. This is the basic formula for takt time. Takt time creates the basic cadence we need to manufacture products. It's often referred to as the heartbeat of the organization. For more information, refer to the takt time lessons. In this case, our takt time is 60 seconds. The first and most obvious thing this means is we need to see a product being completed every 60 seconds. The second thing this means is the operator has to complete his loop within this takt time of 60 seconds. So, you see that the operator completes the loop and completes the product in the planned 60 seconds. Takt time is the first and most important component of standard work that we need to understand. The next is standard sequence. Just like at Subway, our operators have to do things in the exact same order every single time. Now this is a macro level view, but this also needs to be done at the micro level. Performing at standard sequence at both the micro and macro level minimizes the risk of errors and also establishes a base for continuous improvement. This is the same cell with two workers. We put two workers in the cell because of an increase in customer demand. Notice they follow their own loop and the timing for each worker is well balanced.